Greetings, subscribers, and to those of you who've casually dropped in. Professor Evans is off this week, so we're highlighting her previous conversation with the velvet-voiced Dante of Invest Noir, which originally aired as episode 55. Check back next week for the next original episode, and thank you for listening to Tech Intersect.
Welcome to Tech Intersect. I'm your host, Tanya Evans, and my life and work exist at the heart of law, business, and technology. Yeah, I've earned a few fancy titles and degrees over the years, but the bottom line is I'm a writer, speaker, teacher, and lifelong learner, and I'm really excited that you've joined me on this journey. So what is Tech Intersect? Well, it's authentic, empowering conversations with really interesting guests who demystify complex topics to prepare you for the future, because your future is now. And it exists where law, business, and tech intersect. Get ready to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I speak with Cigars and Crypto Podcast host Dante, also known as Invest Noir. We talk economic empowerment, inclusion, the inflation of the US dollar, the importance of dollar cost averaging, and Dante's Bitcoin maximalist views on Ethereum and decentralized finance. We also talk about the democratizing principles of crypto and why the Black community must learn about and participate in the future of money in order to offset the systemic bias and the discriminatory practices that have plagued traditional finance and technology. And he also explains the mindset that you need to have when learning about any new thing, but especially crypto, the law of threes. This is a fantastic episode. It's engaging and informative, and it's a real pleasure to share it with you. Now, before we jump into the episode, take a moment to like, share, and comment so that others who would benefit from this content can actually find it. And also, I invite you to attend an upcoming free masterclass to learn all about crypto, like Bitcoin and the future of money in the new digital cash economy. So if you're tired of wasting time trying to break into the crypto markets alone, or curious but confused about what crypto is and how it works, if you're afraid that you'll miss out on another chance to ride the Bitcoin wave, or scared to invest in crypto because you think it's illegal or unsafe, or if you just want to be on the leading edge and prepare for blockchain's disruptive impact in your industry, then my free masterclass is absolutely for you. Please seize the opportunity to learn before you earn, and definitely before you get burned. I'll give you the unbiased facts in plain language, set you up with a wallet, and give you a solid foundation in the future of money. Register at fromcashtocrypto.com. That's fromcashtocrypto.com. Okay, it's time to listen, learn, and leverage. Let's get started. In this episode of Tech Intersect, I welcome to the show Cigars and Crypto Podcast host Dante, also known in these internet streets as Invest Noir. Cigars and Crypto focuses on new projects and startups in the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and the goal is to introduce traditional investors to this emerging asset class of digital cash and to provide education to anyone who seeks it, although he is a self-described Bitcoin maximalist. We will talk about that in a moment, but he is clearly well-versed in the crypto ecosystem more broadly. I consider him, and it's not just me considering him, an OG in the space. We are very lucky to have someone like this who also is empowering the Black community. We will talk about all of that and more in a moment, but first, Dante, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you today?
I'm doing really well. This is a good Saturday. Mostly because I took Friday, I blocked and tackled, unless you live in this house and it's literally only me. Nobody had to say anything about my schedule yesterday. And I started off last week on my heels in a good way. It's kind of the busy but blessed thing, but I did not even catch my breath until yesterday. So I came into this morning meditating, candles. I had some other things that I had to do. I went out, I did those, I came back, snuck in a workout, and so this is good. I'm in the flow. How about you, sir? How are you today?
Well, I cannot complain. I am Looking forward to a little bit later this evening. I have already picked out my cigar and bourbon of
Yes.
choice for the evening, so I will be getting it in a little bit later on. Other than
Yes.
that, I've had a really low-key chill day today. Thanks for asking.
That's what's up. You had me at bourbon, but not because I know about whiskey and bourbon, but because I am eager to learn.
Okay.
And I just purchased if I had known that this was going to come up, I'd have it in front of me because I don't know enough to tell you what I bought. But I asked someone like you who knows what they're doing, where should a newbie come in to become familiar with whiskey and bourbon? And you're going to start me gently, like in the old fashioned realm, or little bit of water, this proper glass. I don't know, but I'm going to do all the things and I'm going to report back into you and ask your advice because I'm just too new for you even to be bothered with my questions.
No, actually, believe it or not, I am new to bourbon myself. I prefer to pair cigars with rum. I learned that in Cuba a couple of years ago that they don't drink bourbon or whiskey with cigars. They drink rum. So I recently transitioned away from rum and into bourbon and whiskey. So we'll be traveling this road together. So I'm looking forward to comparing notes with you.
Excellent. Well, cheers on that. I'm going to hold you to it. Excellent. So for those who don't know you, although we don't know each other personally, we've gotten to know each other certainly through the Twitters, and I have mad respect for everything that you do in the space.
Thank you.
One of the things that I love, the educator in me definitely honors the educator in you because you've been in the space for a minute, but you are able to take nuanced, very complex and sophisticated topics and jargon and to really demystify it. You're very clear. You're very focused. You have a definite point of view, but you're opening it up. You're expanding the opportunities, particularly in our community. And so for those who don't know you, talk to me about your origin story. How did you even get into the crypto space?
Well, first, thank you so much. I'm flattered. I really do appreciate it. I got into the space in 2014 by accident. I happened to be flying out of Atlanta into San Diego. And one of the options for payment was Bitcoin. So I was like, well, what is this? Right. I know it's not some new credit card. I would have heard about it because I paid attention, I paid attention to financial news and stuff. So I didn't think about it anymore. I just paid for my tickets, hopped on the flight. Then on the return flight back, because I didn't buy a round trip, I bought a one way because I didn't know how long I was going to be out there. So on the flight back, I'm getting ready to book my flight. And I'm like, this Bitcoin thing is there again. Like, what is this? And so I said, okay, I'm going to really dig into this. And so fell down a rabbit hole instantly after paying for the ticket. And I said to myself, okay, this seems really cool. And I've had a very simple understanding of how it works. I plug this machine into the wall. It does some mathematical calculations. If I'm the first to get the calculation correct, I unlock a block. And as a reward for that block, I get 25 Bitcoin. I said, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens, And so I took a couple of grand and I went out and I bought an Antminer S1. And for those of you, that's like the original OG Antminer because they're like S9 or something like that. I may be even wrong. Maybe like an S11. I don't know. But I bought that. I bought a couple of little ones called Butterfly Labs. They were like 33 gigahash. And I bought some grid seed miners. They look like slinkies, like copper slinkies that you plug in and you could mine script coins like Litecoin. So I just said, well, if this thing can make me money and I can fly for free, other than the electricity and the initial cost, it makes sense to do that. At the time, I was bouncing back and forth between Atlanta and the West Coast. So I'm like, if I can get a trip to Hawaii out of this deal, I'm good, So I plugged these things in. I let them run for a couple of years, and then the difficulty increased.
Right.
And it became more and more difficult to earn Bitcoin mining it. So I just unplugged it and I left it alone. Fast forward the end of 2016, and I happened to be watching something on the news, and they were talking about Bitcoin. And in my mind, I'm like, I got some of that, let me see what, let me see what it is. And so I was, scurrying around trying to find my password because I remember that, I needed to write it down and I needed to back up my wallet because back then there were no hardware wallets. You had to literally back up the wallet.dat file off of your computer to somewhere else and remember the password. So I go in, I grab that, I download an updated version of the Bitcoin core wallet, and then I logged in to blockchain.info, where I had been storing the coins that I mined, because I used to mine in a pool. And I looked at it, and then I went to a website and I saw the price. I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute here. This is a lot different than what I remember, because the value had tripled at that point. And so I'm like, wow, all I needed to do was just, if I would have kept that going. And again, I fell down the rabbit hole. And so now I'm like, okay, how else can I get Bitcoin? And so I left the mining alone, and then I went to trading. And I realized that I was a garbage trader. So then I said, well, I can buy these alternative coins called altcoins, hold them for a while, measure them and their value against the value of Bitcoin. And as the value of Bitcoin goes down and the value of these altcoins go up, I could sell these and then buy more Bitcoin. And so then I got into that. And then the ICO craze in 2017 came, and I got burned there because I used to read white papers like daily.
Right.
And, got burned on a couple of projects there, but it was a learning opportunity.
Yes. We've all been there. Continue.
Yeah. And so that was like my intro to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies as a whole. And it's been a wild ride since.
Yeah. So that got you in. What keeps you here? What keeps you here?
Financial freedom and collective economics. People who know me, people who don't know me, if you've read any of my tweets, it's very clear that I'm a Garveyite. Okay. I am a big proponent of financial independence, financial freedom, and collective economics. Bitcoin specifically represents an opportunity for Black folks to get in at the ground floor of a financial revolution in ways that we were unable to during the .com era.
Right.
This is not something that can be manipulated. The only thing that prevents entry into this space is a lack of knowing and a lack of education.
Yes. And
I am here because there are people who want to do better, but don't know how.
Right.
There are people who hear about coins and hear about projects, and their cousin tells them about this, and the cab driver tells them about this, and the Uber driver says you should buy this and buy that. I want to be the voice that people listen to and not say this guy knows what he's talking about, but this guy answered a lot of my questions. I tell people all the time, never believe a word that comes out of my mouth. You always need to do your own research. I will present you with the information, and just enough information for you to go out and fall down the rabbit hole the same way I did.
Right. Absolutely. It has happened to those who come and stay. And I think of students who have come to my master classes, but also to the broader courses. And there's really something for everybody, to your point. Some people just need to know enough. There's so much information out there to try and curate the information so that they get to make the decision as an informed consumer or investor, trader, to just do that. Some people, like you and I, want to take a deeper dive. And so the full bells and whistles about SEC implications or IRS implications, how to plan for your Bitcoin estate. Some people don't need to know all that. Eventually, I hope they get to it.
Right.
But your point is well made, to focus on, we have to know about this. And this is a unique opportunity. I don't know when this type of opportunity to move powerfully at the intersection of technology and finance. This moment in time is a game changer for our community.
Yes.
And I don't, as you said, want us to be left behind in the same way, in that quadrant where you don't know that you don't know. By the time you figure it out,
it's too late.
It's too late. It's too late. And when you think of the market dynamics now, I've listened to a number of your podcasts and definitely watched your feed. We're thinking about inflation, the hyperinflation, the amount of fiat in the United States that has been printed just in this last year alone.
That's frightening.
It is frightening. And we have the example of other countries to let us know. But most people feel like it can't happen here. I don't happen to subscribe to that notion. Every great dynasty falls at some point.
Agreed.
So I'm trying to be on the leading edge of the curve, so I don't have to learn. I can pivot or I'm already there.
Right.
Because it's, when you think about the number of steps it takes at this point in time, and you were describing your experience when you first got into the space, there were even more steps, like as a matter of user experience or the user interface about going from fiat to crypto and how challenging that can be. It's easier than it's ever been right now.
Yes, agreed.
If you have Cash App, not really a fan of a proponent of the PayPal route, but if you have Cash App, there's so many onboarding areas. So I say all that to say, what is your advice to the community about, one, the role of education, and two, what first steps they should take as a matter of education and getting into the space? It's kind of big, but we'll narrow it down. But in general, educate and the first steps to get in.
Well, the first thing I'd say is I do everything using the law of threes. So when I hear about something, I go to three different sources to either validate or invalidate what I've heard. So I always operate in the law of threes, even with cigars. If I won't tell you I like or dislike a cigar until I've smoked it 3 times. I dollar cost average because it's important to do. And that is the next step. So you need a dollar cost average, right? And people say, well, what is dollar cost averaging? And my response to that very simply is, do you have a 401k? If you have a 401k, you're dollar cost averaging your paycheck into a basket of stocks and bonds that your employer curates for you. That's dollar cost averaging, using the same amount of money at the same frequency to invest over a long period of time. Okay. For the education component, I know I'm bouncing back and forth. I'm sorry.
No worries. No, it's good.
For the education piece, I think it's very important that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to not trust, because Bitcoin is about self-sovereignty and about being your own bank. So it's okay to be distrustful, but it's very important that you educate yourself. Never just jump in because someone says you should buy this because it's going to the moon, because the person who probably told you that has been holding it for a very long time, and they'll sell it. You know what I mean? They'll sell it, and then you're left holding the bag all the way down.
Yes, the pump and the dump.
Right,
yes,
exactly.
Continue.
And a lot of these projects that people are interested in have low liquidity, meaning there's not enough money sloshing around for buyers and sellers to transact with each other. So if you buy into a project that someone says you need to get into, you and that person may not be able to get out of it because there's not enough Bitcoin liquidity in the market or US dollar coin in the market to get out. So always do your research. Always ask questions of people that you trust. Never trust what you hear. Always validate for yourself. My advice is to always stick with Bitcoin first. When I onboard people, I tell them, go to Cash App. I don't like Coinbase. Go to Cash App, spend $10. Don't put 100 in. Don't put 1,000 in. Don't put 10,000 in. Put in $10. Wake up the next day, look at your Cash App. Did it go to $10.15 or did it go down to $9.85? That's the first lesson. You just learned what liquidity is. You just learned what it looks like for an asset to rise, to ebb and flow in value. As you invest more, you'll need to expect that the larger your position gets. That's where those strong hands come in. Don't be scared when you see the up and down. When you see the down, you need to say, hey, this might be a good time to buy.
Opportunity.
Because once it goes back up, hey, I'm in good shape.
Exactly.
We hope you're enjoying this edition of Tech Intersect. Our conversation will continue in a moment, but first, a word on an exciting opportunity.
There's a more cost-effective and time-efficient way to reach your leading-edge learning and earning goals, to put you ahead of the stiff competition in this fast-paced, tech-driven economy. You need skills, credentials, and a fast track to a competitive advantage. You need it now more than ever, and I can help. The Advantage Evans method puts you ahead of the curve with condensed, comprehensive online courses, curated content to leverage your current skills and expertise, live coaching, networking opportunities, and more. Upcoming courses include From Cash to Crypto to help you buy your first Bitcoin. And there are 2 ways to get your advantage. Advantage Evans Encore gives you maximum experience for your total competitive advantage and access for 1 year. It includes a live welcome and modules on terminology, buying and selling, exchanges, mining, earning crypto, trading and investing, and also several of the legal issues you need to know in order to be safe and secure as you enter this space. That includes tax compliance, how to plan for a Bitcoin estate, and securities laws to make sure you avoid any legal unforced errors. Now, Advantage Core gives you the essentials. It's a short course to give you what you want and the support you need to buy your first crypto in as little as 3 weeks, with access to the information and replays for 3 months. And if you're not quite ready for your Advantage and want a sneak peek to try before you buy, then register for a free masterclass where I share my Crypto 101 success checklist and cover current hot topics in crypto. So there truly is something for everyone, including you, to get in on the fast track and learn and earn in the digital economy. Visit AdvantageEvans.com to get started. That's AdvantageEvans.com.
And now, back to the conversation.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
We have been seeing some, the energy of money, the energy of value, and how Bitcoin and the rest of the ecosystem, kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats in some sense, but because of the market domination of Bitcoin. And when you think of pairs, you're going to have BTC, Bitcoin, or ETH in order to begin to trade in most instances anyway.
Agreed.
So that's the perfect place to begin. And Bitcoin is so different from Ethereum. Let's have that discussion. So you are...
I'm here for that. I am here for that.
I see you. Full disclosure, although I'm not here to talk about Maker, I'm the chair of the Maker Foundation in support of the community toward full decentralization.
Okay.
And so the purpose and the function of Bitcoin is different than when I think of the Ethereum virtual machine and decentralized applications on top, et cetera. But I believe in the power of BTC for sure as well. Mm-hmm. But some of our listeners won't know what a Bitcoin maximalist is and the reason that maximalists will focus on hard money and what that means. So talk folks through what that means.
Sure. Well, I think to understand my position first, you need to understand what hard or sound money is. Earlier, we were talking about hyperinflation and how 23% of all the money that the U.S. has ever printed was printed in the last year. Okay. When people ask me about that, I give a very simple example of why that's bad. So you have a cup of coffee, an 8-ounce cup of coffee, right? And you have a 4-ounce cup of milk, and you pour the milk into the coffee. The coffee goes from being black to brown. It's still brown. It's still dark, but it's lightened up a little bit. It's not quite as strong as it was before. Now, take that same example, and now I have an 8-ounce cup of coffee, and I take a 16-ounce glass of milk, and I pour that entire glass of milk into that cup of coffee. The coffee's gone. It's weak. If you drink that, you're not going to get that caffeine buzz that you're looking for to keep you up throughout the day and help you power through the next couple of hours. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's what hyperinflation is. It is a weakening of the spending power of the fiat dollars that you have in your hand. Another example I gave, and I'm going to date myself here just a little bit, so bear with me. Okay? All right. I remember back in the day when I was a kid, I could go out and get a value meal from Burger King that was a Whopper with cheese and bacon and all the condiments, a large fry, and a giant soda for $2.99.
Let's go. I remember that too.
Okay.
So I see you.
So
I
we're
see
about
you.
to, all right. So you got me, right? All right, cool. Try that now. You go to Burger King and you get that exact same meal, Whopper Jr. with cheese, bacon, all the condiments, a large fry, and a large soda. You're going to spend $8 or $9. That is inflation.
Right.
Getting the same thing, but paying a lot more for it.
Right.
I remember when gasoline was 89 cents a gallon. I remember, let me tell you, I remember when gas went to 99 cents after I got my first car. I was like, look, man, something's got to give. Something's got to give. You were really breaking me here. I don't know what's going on. Now, you know, when I moved out to California a couple of years ago, gas was $4.90 a gallon. Now, here I am living in California. This is 2016, driving a Cadillac Escalade ESV.
Oh, my God.
It was costing me $150 to fill that truck up.
Right.
That is inflation. Getting the same thing, but paying a lot more for it because the dollar that you're using isn't worth as much as it used to be, right?
Right.
That's my explanation on why hard or sound money is important. Why I think Bitcoin is important and the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin has never tried to be anything other than currency.
Right.
It doesn't want to do anything other than be currency. Currency that can't be inflated, currency that is fungible, currency that can't be manipulated, currency that's easily transportable, currency that's unique, that everyone can use, that's divisible by 21 million Bitcoin times 10 billion pieces. That's Bitcoin. Ethereum is a machine that wants to allow other tokens to exist in its ecosystem. It purports to be a world computer that allows you to run decentralized applications as well as other currencies inside of its borders.
Right.
I am not going to talk bad about Ethereum, but I am a maximalist because Bitcoin is currency. I don't want anything else other than currency. That's it. All of the other bells and whistles, that's cool. And there are projects out there that are valuable, that offer value, that do things that people need. And that's why I won't talk bad about Ethereum.
Right.
But for me, all of the trading of altcoins that I do, including Ethereum, those profits go right back to Bitcoin.
Stimulus.
Right.
Stimulus.
Right. Exactly.
Stimulate my Bitcoin.
Yes.
I completely appreciate that. I appreciate that, full stop. Some of the things that, because I want to talk about your partnership with Crypto Commandments and the conversation that you had on Cigars and Crypto about this precise point were very interesting. I do think as a matter of economic empowerment and inclusion, to offset the devastating impacts of redlining, of
Yes.
predatory lending.
Yes.
If you're going to hold BTC long anyway, get something better than when you're putting fiat in a bank account.
Exactly.
There are a lot of things that will come and go that are being built on top of Ethereum. But the power that I see in opportunities where you don't have to go through credit check, you don't have to get the most horrendous of percentage rates. And even if you have 800 FICO and you're doing all the things, checking all the boxes, you're still Black in America, and you're probably not going to get the best rate.
Exactly.
Taking all of that out of the equation to participate more meaningfully, I'm a fan of that. What I'm not a fan of are the projects, harken back to 2017, 2018, with the ICO boom and bust, where you have a white paper and 3 people sitting around with nothing to do, no particular expertise.
Yep.
What is the thing? And it's not better than Bitcoin. So the token's not better than Bitcoin, and you're not doing anything to add value.
Exactly.
You're dead to me. So
I love
those
it.
projects
I love
are
it.
of great concern. So we shall see as that continues to develop. But any project that would do those things, add value and opportunity to the community, I'm about it. So we shall see. We shall see.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the podcast. So you said that around the same time you were getting into cigars, you were also becoming an aficionado of crypto as well.
Yes.
So talk to me about the podcast.
Okay. Well, Cigars and Crypto is a response to the tens or hundreds of people who asked me questions in the cigar lounge. I would go to the cigar lounge with a tablet or my MacBook, and I would sit there 3-4 hours, drinking rum and smoking cigars and head down in this computer staring at charts or reading a PDF document. And there are all of these conversations happening around me. And people are like, oh, man, like every time I come in here, you're like staring at this chart. Are you like a stock trader? Are you a day trader guy? No, I'm not a day trader. And no, I don't do stocks. Well, what are you looking at? I'm looking at Bitcoin, or I'm looking at Litecoin, or I'm looking at Digibyte. Well, what is that? Well, Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, and these are tokens, and this is this, and this is that. I started having that same conversation over and over and over and over again. And after about 3 months of talking to different people, because different people come in and out of the cigar lounge, but all the questions are always the same. You come in, you sit down, you don't talk to anybody, you're doing that. What are you doing? So I say, you know what? I'm going to record this and I'm going to put it up on the website and you just go listen to it. and they said, okay. So I did 1 or 2. No guests. It was just, I think one of my first episodes was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I was talking about a story out of that book that really resonated with me about persistence, and another story out of the book about a farmer who was buying cows and the importance of dollar cost averaging. And then people started asking me questions that I didn't know the answer to. So then I'd go on Twitter and I'd see someone that had this point of view about the question, and then I'd see someone that would have that point of view about the question. I said, well, let me DM them and see if they'll talk to me, if they'll mind if I record it. Then the next week I go to that other person and say, hey, did you hear this episode I did? Tell me why you don't agree with it. Come on my show. Let's talk for 30 minutes. And that was 145 episodes ago.
Amazing.
So
amazing.
It's just a labor of love. And really selfishly, it's the way I learn.
1000%. For me, for sure. I started with guests, but to do exactly what you just said. It's like, you cannot know all the things about the space, and anyone who pretends to, do not listen to them. We'll start there.
Right.
I don't care how long they've been in the space. And there's always something really great that comes out of the authentic conversation that gets me to consider a different point of view. And it's helpful for people who are learning. So we are doing the heavy lifting and sharing our experiences so other people will have an easier road of it. And then take that and carry the mantle, do your own research, DYOR, all those things, but they'll be better. Yeah. I think of it as a microcosm of generational wealth.
Yes.
In the sense of information.
Yes.
Each time we have these conversations, that is what happens. Somebody is better off because we did what we did, and they're not starting from scratch.
Right.
I also don't believe about starting from scratch, because you're either moving forward or backward. There is no stasis.
Right. Agreed.
So it's a beautiful thing. I'm going to continue to listen. You have a fan over here for sure. I'm looking down at the time. I was like, oh, Lord, I told him I would let him go 9 minutes ago. Look at us. But this is what happens.
Yeah, but this is what good conversation is.
Agreed. All right. Well, let's do this.
Yes.
Tell people how they can learn. I'm definitely going to drop not only the episode of Cigars and Crypto that I mentioned specifically, because I think that has all the gems and a lot of empowering information. But everybody, I want you to go certainly subscribe and listen to Cigars and Crypto. Please, Dante, tell people how they can learn more about your show and your work in this space.
Feel free to follow my show. It's at Cigars and Crypto on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Please feel free to follow me personally at Invest Noir on Twitter. You can also check out my show at www.cigarsandcrypto.com or wherever you listen to podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or a bunch of other places.
So you get all the information and you get that butter voice. I mean, hello. What else you need in the world? Dante, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you so, so much. This is the first, but definitely not the last. And I'm glad that we could finally pull it all together. Thanks for your patience. And I'm happy that we connected.
Sister, thank you for the invitation and your time.
It's amazing to be able to hear from an absolute crypto OG who loves distilled spirits as much as he loves to distill and demystify complex topics and issues in the cryptocurrency and blockchain ecosystem. Now, some great takeaways. One, his law of threes. And also, and I've been talking about this a lot recently in episodes, is the power of dollar cost averaging and the importance of crypto as self-sovereign money and the absolute mandate that you DYOR, that's do your own research. Whatever you do, just do it. Now, let me know your thoughts about this episode and drop a comment or tweet at Advantage Evans. Please take a moment to like, comment, and share this episode and this podcast with your networks. Follow me on social medias and let me know what topics you'd like to hear more of and who you want to hear from. All right, that's all for this episode. Until next time, continue to shine.
Stay in touch with host Tanya Evans via your favorite social media. On Twitter at TechIntersect and on Instagram via the handle TechIntersect. This podcast has been produced by Stephanie Renee for Soul Sanctuary Incorporated.